So first, let's talk about some of the basic terminology that we use in OmniCenter. So devices are kind of the basic unit of licensing and monitoring. Everything is built around a device from a monitoring standpoint, with the exception of application level monitors. But the idea is that that device becomes kind of the core that all of the different monitoring and alarms wrap around. And it's basically a logical device. So the idea is that a guest is a device, a virtual host could be a device, a 48 port switch could be a device, or if a stack of switches could be a device if it's managed as a single logical entity. So that's kind of how we define a device. Every device has a type, and that type is how OmniCenter determines what can be monitored on the device and how to collect that data. So, for example, a Windows device, we're going to use WMI or WinRM to collect the data. If it's a network device, it would be, typically SNMP or other APIs that we might use to collect the data. But that type is how OmniCenter defines exactly what can be monitored on the device and what method to use to collect it. Types can also have subtypes associated with them, and a subtype extends the type to add additional data collection. So the idea is that subtypes are typically used for applications running on a device. So, for example, a Windows server might have a subtype of a MS SQL server because it's an application that's running on the device, and it's additional stats we'll want to collect from it. On a router, that might be a router running OSPF or BGP. It might have subtypes associated with those to collect stats specific to those, functions or protocols that might not apply to all devices of that type, but are generally going to apply to a lot of them. And that's kind of what we use subtypes for. Devices can have multiple subtypes associated with them as well. So, if it's a router and it's running, OSPF and BGP, you could be running both of those subtypes on the same device. They're basically applications to get extra data from. Templates are what we use to kind of manage the configuration of OmniCenter. So templates allow us to collect data from or collect settings rather from different devices and apply them to all of the devices of a specific type or a specific subtype, for example. They can also be applied at the individual device level. They can be applied at the category or site level. So if you've got, for example, a site that is over a remote satellite link, it's going to have high latency. You could have a template that defines the latency parameters for that site differently, and then any devices added to that site would inherit those settings. So templates, because they can be applied at multiple levels, a device can have multiple templates attached to them, and we'll apply those settings hierarchically. And we'll talk more about that in a few minutes.